Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me again today. So today I have Diana with me, who works as a developer experience engineer at VictoriaMetrics. She has agreed today to come on the show on our journey to accompany us on finding the different definitions of observability and what it means to a variety of people with different job roles or different parts of their technologies and so on. So thanks again, Diana, for joining us. If you could please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Amir. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here at this present podcast. I'm Diana Todea. I'm a developer experience engineer at VictoriaMetrics. I've been working in tech for about 16 years now, and I've been seeing shaping, the technology along with my roles. So I've been in tech support for a while, and I worked as an infrastructure engineer. Then I discovered clouds, and I worked as cloud engineer. In the last 4 years, I worked as an SRE, site reliability engineer in observability. So this is where I discovered observability. And 2 years ago, I also discovered Tech Talks and conferences. And
Yes.
I really love the community. So I kind of morphed my way into a developer experience engineer, which what I'm currently doing at the moment. So I'm joining you today from Valencia, Spain. Uh,
Nice.
and I'm originally from Romania, actually, so another European
Oh,
country.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. How's the weather in Valencia? I've heard many good things about the place.
Yeah, it's sunny, except this time of year when it starts to rain a lot.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we'll talk about Spain and Valencia offline, but we'll talk about observability. Um, so how involved are you generally in your observability? So Victoria Metrics I've heard the name quite a lot, especially in the open source community. But again, what is exactly your role and what do you do when it comes to observability?
Yeah, no, for sure. So VictoriaMetrics, like you well said, is quite known in the open source community because it appeared as a fork of the CNCF project Prometheus
Yeah.
to address some of the issues with Prometheus, especially scalability. So it is monitoring solution, provides that a time series database. It's mainly open source with some enterprise features as well. But what is currently doing at the moment in the observability ecosystem is also scaling, right? So primarily, we know VictoriaMetrics for metrics, but since last year, developed also Victoria Logs for logs, and under development currently, they're doing Victoria Traces for traces. So
Nice.
yeah, in a nutshell, is trying to provide the developers and engineers the whole three signals of observability, so they
Mhm.
can better, use it for troubleshooting and other purposes.
Nice. Awesome. And what do you do? What is your role in this ecosystem?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm basically the bridge between developers and VictoriaMetrics. So I'm going back and forth from VictoriaMetrics to developers, trying to see like where's the gap in knowledge, where's the gap in information, what more we can do for the community in terms of content, right? Because there are always developers, engineers that need more explanation, more
Yeah.
resources, onboarding. So that's never, something that you can miss, so you can always thrive to do better. So this is what is my current role, so to bridge this gap and get in touch with the communities, get to know what they need, what they want, how to improve the products as well, and yeah, how we can better assist engineers.
Nice. Awesome. That sounds amazing. So again, we were just talking earlier that there are like probably immeasurable amounts of definitions out there floating for observability. Everybody wants to talk about observability in their own context, and which is obviously makes sense. So what do you think is observability? Is it just a classic collection of logs, metrics, and traces, and or is it goes beyond it, or where does it actually start? Where does it stop?
No, I think this is a very modern question, and yeah, currently is there are like so many definitions and so many mysteries that, you know, everybody has a different opinion. So I want to share like my experience with observability. Like I said, I'm like morphed around different tech roles as technology developed. So first of all, I got to know the world of observability actually through monitoring. So being
Right.
infrastructure engineer for quite lots of years, supporting many tools, many systems. At that time, we weren't speaking about observability per se. We were just talking about either monitoring or looking at logs. So
Yeah.
tops, you're like, okay, so what is your CPU doing? You know, what's the status of your system? Is it crashing? Do you need to take a look at the events? So some of those were like the actual terms. Some of the fancy engineers started to use words like metrics, but to be honest, I literally heard more them talking about logs and events. And I do remember the times where we're like debugging system events in Windows. We were checking things in the system, in the logs, in you know, the all the events definition there. So this is how we got started, and then actually with the big vendors, the big observability vendors, we also start to hear more about this new term observability, which actually doesn't come in the world of engineering. So it's more like a mathematical term, right? Concept. And it's
Yeah.
actually an attribute, right? So something that is observable. And with time, as you know, we started to like troubleshoot and use more of these observability tools. For me, this fancy definition really came down to earth in a simple manner. So observability actually means the ability to of a system to be seen, right? And to be seen is actually you have to make it being seen. So it's a system
Right.
by itself. It won't turn observable if you click a button. So first of all, you have to understand the system or a tool. You have to know how to make it observable, how to make it be seen, and how to be able to communicate with other systems. And this is like, I think, the root definition and something that really simple that anybody can understand. And it's not, how can I say, I don't see observability and monitoring as two different things. I see doing working for the same objective, right? So to provide us actionable insights. So
Right.
engineers really love insights, and if we can do something actionable from it, it's even better. So I will give you an example. So if you're like working with databases, if you want to know like what crashed in your database, and if you want to make your teams know about that your database is crashing, you have to make one, your database observable, be seen, and second, for that signal to be sent to an observability or a monitoring tool. And
Exactly.
this is how you know, like the workflow actually happens. So you need to have, as an engineer, you need to make it seen, and then you have to actually send that signal to a monitoring tool.
Yeah, perfect. No, I completely agree. I would go as far as to say observability, like you said, is not only about, well, it consists of several things, right? So it is monitoring, it is instrumenting. Obviously, it starts from instrumenting. Like you said, something has to be made to be seen. So that is the instrumentation part. And then you go to collection, and then you go to analytics, and then you go to maybe dashboarding. So everything, and you added on something very relevant, I think, which is sharing as well, right? So whatever data you're collecting, you also have to share it, and that shareability, let's call it automation, automated scale shareability also comes in the observability. That it's of no use if you're just making fancy things but not sharing them out. So I completely agree with that definition, really. Um, And so, in having said that, what do you see in maybe in your personal, you may have some personal war stories, any horror stories about observability that you maybe if you'd like to share, and what challenges do you think are the most common in this space?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the word of observability, I mean, it's a very interesting one, but also tends to be a frustrating one. because of how it's actually implemented and how it's actually interpreted by organizations. So you can have, I don't know, if you have in a company many teams, all the teams will have a different definition or a different view, right? A perspective, how that observability has to be implemented. So the actual problem of working through an efficient observability is actually the ability to communicate within the teams and focus on one observability solution or perspective. I would not say maybe solution because people tend to think about solutions as a tool, right? So as a single
Tool,
platform.
yeah.
Exactly. But I would say more like a philosophy, right? So I rarely seen companies sit down with their teams going through like an architecture kind of system design meeting and ask them from the beginning, look, what do you need for your systems, for your applications to ship those metrics out and have those actionable insights. Have that very basic conversation and be able to come, to a consensus. So as an engineer, I've been on the other side when, normally like an engineer manager hires you and you're giving like a huge list of technical debt and you're like, okay, so you used to be a DevOps, DevOps team. Right now we're an SRE. These guys in the past thought that, and they give you the list of platforms they have been using. Right now we're going to reinvent everything, but we're not going to start from scratch. So we're going to have to like patch.
Just shift, lift and shift.
Exactly. So it's very frustrating, and also very frustrating because observability and monitoring usually comes at a later phase, right? So they think they kind of like lift everything up, all the platforms. They think, oh, right now we need observability. So how do we do that? And people get frustrated, managers get frustrated, teams get frustrated because then you have like so many incidents in production, and you have like these blind spots, right? Like you never thought about that issue that was monitored, and you get the blame for it. So definitely, I've been a witness of many horror stories.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I imagine as part of your job, you work with a lot of engineers maybe at the ground and as well as some clients, customers that VictoriaMetrics also has. So do you, any common gotchas, or do you see any pattern that is emerging out of how people actually tend to approach observability? And what would be your advice to do and don'ts in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I think is that normally clients or in general like companies, they come to observability vendors when they already have an issue, right? So they don't come when everything is fine and they they're looking for advice how to do things in the future. They usually come when they have an issue and they want either to scale or solve a problem, right? So like one of the big issue, let's say, or like the major challenges in observability is scalability and cardinality, high cardinality. Because obviously at some point in their life cycle, at the maturity level, will rise and they will start scaling. They will add more servers, databases, etc., and they will start having all these issues. And observability will start kicking in, and they'll be like, oh, how are we going to address these issues? Well, we need to buy like more tools. We need to add like more platforms. Please give us advice. And that's like, how can I say, a very it's a very, not, I wouldn't say lazy, but it's a very it's something like contraindicated.
Reactive,
It's
as rather than proactive.
exactly how to do it. So I obviously we had also there are other companies or other clients that come in advance, and they know that they want to scale, and that's good. So they come in advance and they start asking, look, we know that right now we're going to be growing bigger. What can we do? What can you propose? Can you solve this situation? And I think that's the good way to take it. Even better to take it from day zero if you can, but it's always good to discuss with observability vendors before actually getting into the issue. So besides the scalability, the cardinality is usually platform adoption. So yeah, because many companies, they don't know like what to pick. There are so many observability vendors that promise you, in fact, a lot of things, a lot of good things. But in reality, when you start consuming them, you also see the rising cost, right? Especially if you go outside of the open source or cloud native ecosystem, and then the costs are really exorbitant. And the higher you scale, the higher the cost will be. And really feel for those companies in general, because as an engineer, I used to be in, at the center, the epicenter of the conflict, and seeing how these costs are really gonna rise. And engineering has to patch everything up, right? So has to like find like the perfect solution, and observability like an open source tool there, an open source tool in the other way, and patch everything so it works fine. But the problem will always be the system design. So the actual architecture, how
Yeah.
everything is done, which is done really poorly. And after a specific point, you cannot go back. So you have to either erase it, start from the beginning, or you have the technical debt.
Right. No, very well said. So basically, it all boils down to plan ahead before, don't wait for anything to break. Make sure that nothing breaks in the first place. Right. So we can probably summer it down all into that one sentence. Um, so we talked about shareability a little while ago. Um, and to share data, obviously, you have to visualize it first. So how do you see what is the role of data visualization in all of this in this space? And again, any common patterns that you see that people are using or misusing when it comes to dashboarding and sharing out data?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I do think visualization is super important, because we all want to save time, right? So we want to be efficient. We want to have like all the information ready in a dashboard, share it with other teams, managers, and so on. So definitely that saves time, and also saves time in terms of collecting the data and interpreting the data. So
Yeah.
you don't have to ask an engineer to collect things and stay and patch everything. You just see everything in one visualization or dashboard. What I do see is that companies are still doing the wrong thing, which is build all the dashboards imaginable. Because hey, a manager wants to have this kind of panel and that panel,
Yeah.
and the round thing is better than the square stuff. And then you're gonna
Yes.
see like many Kubernetes dashboards that practically do more or less the same thing, and they don't focus on the basic, right? So I think number one rule in engineering, and applies obviously to observability, is be simple. So if you're going to be simple, actually, you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches later in the process. So that means build everything on simple patterns or simple principles, stick to the basic metrics or traces, etc., all the basic signals, keep dashboards visualization on the basics. Like CPU, memory, Kubernetes, and that's it. You don't need like 10,000 alerts. You can work very fine with just 10 of them, and everybody will be happy. If an alert wakes you up at night and keeps waking you up at night, maybe you want to do a playbook, right? Or you want to automate
Hmm.
something. Maybe you want to replace a tool or a platform. You don't have to keep waking up all the time. So there are many, many things you can do besides, poorly selecting many alerts or visualization tools.
Yeah, that is actually one of the things that comes up very often is the often the most common mistake people make with dashboarding is that they dashboard everything. And that's what we are a dashboarding tool, so I know a little bit in this space. So that is also something we also tell them is like, please select the most important things, KPIs, key performance indicators of whatever that you have, your application or your service, your teams or whatever, and just only dashboard those. Don't dashboard, like don't query the data that you need, only query a very focused set of data that actually helps you achieve something or get some actual insights. So I do completely agree and empathize with this this sentiment that you have. Is like, just because you collect everything doesn't mean you should show everything, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so I will wrap this up here today. That's all the questions I wanted to ask. But do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap this session up? Do you want to share anything or any best practices, general knowledge that you've collected over the years?
Yeah, of course. You asked me previously, and then probably something that I didn't say, that if I've seen a new trend coming up or something that people
Right.
got really wowed by in observability. Yes, definitely. So since last year, or maybe other people saw it even before, is actually the usage of AI and machine learning algorithms in observability. And we've seen
Right.
that explosion right now, anyway, in major observability vendors with LLM observability, and how we are seeing the dashboards, how we are looking at the data, how are we interpreting the data. And I think this is a game changer, not because, it's like something new and you have to buy it and use it, but it's something that saves time. If you're an engineer, you're not going to sit around and be blind to something new that appears and it's saving time. So you have to admit that is something that probably will influence us quite a lot. So I've seen like different observability vendors using a lot of machine learning algorithms, being able to actually to communicate with all the infrastructure, with all the systems, and offer you that unified, how can I say, the unified conclusion in your observability platform. Some of them like even integrated like codes, like IDEs. So like the actual codes that where you can actually modify the code if you have an incident and you start modifying the code and you release it immediately. And that's actually something really useful. I think that's going to be a really game changer for any SRE, DevOps, software engineer, because it will be allowing you to communicate a lot with your observability platform and everything like in your system. So I really want to say here, like everybody's saying like, oh, AI will gonna replace me. So, or if I'm an SRE, DevOps, I will be replaced by AI. Absolutely not. So definitely, it's a tool, right? So like any tool, you have to get to know it, have to understand to know it. And I think companies should give like more flexibility to use and play with it, experiment with it, and see how actually how can it benefit you.
Yeah.
I think that's something useful.
That is amazing. I think that is a bit of a wisdom that everyone can use. And yes, with AI also we've also in the dashboarding space have noticed, let's say, this trend of wanting to implement AI, which is only natural. And with implementing AI also comes monitoring, observing, dashboarding AI, sharing it out. So yeah, I would completely agree. And we also have noticed that trend in the industry in the recent times. Cool. So thanks, Diana, again. That was really, really useful and very insightful. Hearing to all the experiences and all the knowledge that you've collected over the years. And thanks again for sharing with us. Well, thank you, and I wish you a very nice day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Samir. Enjoy your day. Bye bye.